Stop what you're doing right now. I need you to think about the last time you wrote something you don't remember writing. A note on a sticky pad, a name in the margin of a book, your own handwriting, your own words. No memory of putting them there. Most people brush it off, tired, distracted, running on autopilot. But one woman couldn't brush it off, because the notes weren't reminders. They weren't grocery lists. They were warnings, written in her own hand, about things she hadn't let herself know yet. This story was submitted by a listener we're going to call Claire. She asked us to change her location, her name, everything that could identify her. She said, and I'm going to read this exactly as she wrote it. I don't want anyone who knows me to recognize this. Not because I'm embarrassed, because I'm still not sure it's over. That line sat with me for a long time. Claire is in her late 20s. She lives alone in a mid-sized city, third floor of a newer building, the kind with keycard entry and a front desk staffed until 10. She is, by her own description, extremely organized. Planner on her desk, grocery lists on her phone, labels on her pantry shelves. She told us the first note didn't alarm her because it looked exactly like something she would write. It was on a yellow sticky note on the bathroom mirror. It said, "Pick up the dry cleaning Thursday." She had dry cleaning. She had forgotten about it. She assumed she'd written the note herself and forgotten that too. Sleep-deprived, overworked. She picked up the dry cleaning. She threw the note away. The second note was inside her coffee mug, folded once. It said, "You left the back burner on." She had left the back burner on. She checked. It was off by the time she found the note, but the pan was still warm. She told herself she'd turned it off in a half-awake fog and left herself a note about it. People do things on autopilot. She knew that. She repeated it to herself like a mantra. The third note is where everything changed. It was in her coat pocket, not a jacket she'd worn recently. A heavier coat, early season, hadn't touched it in weeks. She pulled it out on the first cold morning of the year and felt something in the left pocket, a folded piece of paper. 3 words. He's not trustworthy. She was seeing someone at the time. Had been for 4 months. She told us when she read that note, her first reaction wasn't fear. It was recognition. Like something she'd been thinking but hadn't said out loud had been handed back to her in her own handwriting. She didn't throw that one away. She set up a camera. Small one, pointed at her kitchen counter where the notes had been appearing. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't call police. She told us she was almost more afraid of being wrong than of being right. She wasn't wrong. Night 6 of the footage. 2:43 in the morning. Claire walks into her kitchen, eyes open, fully upright. She goes to the counter, picks up a pen, pulls a notepad from the drawer, writes something, folds it, sets it down, and walks back to her bedroom. She has no memory of doing this. None. She watched herself do it on camera and felt nothing she could name. Grainy security camera footage of a dimly lit kitchen at 2 a.m. A woman stands at the counter writing something on a notepad, shot from a high angle as if from a camera on a shelf. She is upright, eyes open, completely calm. She folds the note, sets it down, and walks out of frame. She has no memory of this moment. The note she found that morning said, "Check the drawer in his desk." She checked the drawer. What she found there ended the relationship. It confirmed everything she hadn't let herself believe for 4 months. But here's what she still cannot answer. Was she sleepwalking? Was some part of her mind surfacing things she already knew but hadn't let herself face? Or had something else been watching her life closely enough to write notes in her own hand that were more accurate about her circumstances than she was? She's been on camera every night since. She has not walked to that counter again. The notes have stopped, but she told us she still checks her coat pockets every morning before she leaves. Every single morning, just in case. She trusted the notes. She acted on them, and every single one of them was right. Whether it was her own subconscious surfacing things in the dark or something else entirely, whatever was writing those notes knew her better than she knew herself. That is the part that does not let go. The next person this happened to wasn't dealing with paper and ink. He was dealing with a face on a screen that no one else in his company could see. A coworker he liked. someone who remembered things, someone who was paying very close attention for 4 months. And when he finally looked her up, she didn't exist. This story was submitted by a listener we're calling Dominic. He works remotely, has for 3 years since his company restructured and went fully distributed. 26 people on his team across 4 time zones, the kind of setup where you know people's voices better than their faces, and you have never once been in the same room as your manager. He is steady, practical, the kind of person who troubleshoots problems and moves on. He told us that for 4 months, he had a colleague he genuinely liked, someone he looked forward to seeing on calls. She appeared in the Zoom grid the same way everyone else did. Name tag, camera on, professional background. Her name was Serena Voss. She didn't speak in every meeting, but when she did, it was specific, thoughtful. She once referenced a project Dominic had mentioned offhandedly 3 weeks earlier. He remembers feeling noticed, feeling like she was actually paying attention in a way most people on those calls didn't bother to. He never thought to look her up. Why would he? She was just a coworker. The moment it unraveled was an accident. He was building a shared document and needed to tag her. He typed the first 3 letters of her name. Nothing populated. He tried every variation he could think of. He went to the company directory and searched for 20 minutes. Nothing. He went back through 6 months of meeting recordings looking for her on the participant list. Her name appeared in the grid on his screen in every single recording, but in the metadata, in the attendance logs, in the system, no record, not active, not archived, not deactivated, never existed. He reached out to IT, carefully, framed it as a technical issue, said he was having trouble locating a colleague's contact info. IT told him no account by that name had ever been provisioned. He sent a screenshot of a meeting where she was clearly visible in the grid. It told him that screenshot showed 22 participants. He counted 23. He could see her. They could not. Dominic is not someone who scares easily. His first serious theory was technical spoofing. Someone had injected a fake participant into his video calls, a prank with enough access to look seamless. He went looking for who could have done it and how. And then he reverse image searched her profile photo. The face came back as a match. A missing persons report out of Indiana. A woman who had disappeared 7 years prior. No resolution to the case. No body ever found. The photo in the report was older, lower quality, but it was the same face. Dominic filed a report with local police. He sent them the screenshot. The detective told him image search results alone weren't actionable and that without more evidence there wasn't much to pursue. He stopped seeing Serena Voss in his meetings the week after he ran that search. She hasn't appeared since. He still keeps the screenshot. He told us he looks at it sometimes trying to understand what he was actually looking at for 4 months. Whether it was a person, a program, or something that exists in a category he doesn't have a name for. He said the thing that bothers him most isn't what she was. It's that she always seemed to know exactly what was happening in his life. Things he mentioned in passing, things he thought no one was tracking. Something was there, paying close attention, wearing a dead woman's face. Something that watches, something that listens, something that learns you and wears a face it borrowed from somewhere else. That is a specific kind of dread, because it is not random, it is targeted. It chose him, it stayed, and it knew exactly when to leave. The last story tonight is the same kind of presence, except this one didn't need a screen, it didn't need a voice. All it needed was a window, a light, and enough patience to learn one woman's schedule so completely it could run it without her. She drove past that house every single day for 6 weeks before she understood what it meant that the light always went out the moment she came home. This story comes from a listener we're calling Nadia. She moved into a rental house in a quiet residential neighborhood in early spring, the kind of street where everyone has lived for 20 years and knows which neighbor's dog gets out on Tuesdays. She is methodical by nature, creature of habit, same alarm, same coffee, same route every single day. By April, she had a routine so locked in she could run it half asleep. She noticed the house across the street around week 3. Same wake time as her, same kitchen light, same car leaving at the same time each morning. She didn't find it remarkable at first. Routines are routines. Some people just run on the same clock. But she is a curious person, and after a few weeks, the coincidence started to nag at her. The neighbor's kitchen light always came on within 5 minutes of hers. Always. The car left within minutes of her own. When Nadia started working late, the lights across the street stayed on later. When she came home early, the house was already lit, like a mirror, like a shadow, running her day behind her, slightly delayed, like an echo. She told herself she was projecting. Pattern recognition gone too far. The human brain finds rhythms everywhere, even when they aren't there. So she tested it. On a Tuesday night, she got up at 2 in the morning, turned on every light in her house, and stood at the front window, looking across the street. Every light in the house across the street came on within 4 minutes. She went back to bed. She did not sleep. She started documenting. Timestamps on her phone, notes in a journal, every light change in her house, every corresponding change across the street. 3 weeks of data before she finally let herself believe what she was looking at. Whatever was in that house was not on its own schedule. It was on hers. She asked a neighbor about the woman across the street. The neighbor looked at her for a moment before answering carefully. No one had lived in that house for almost 2 years. The owner had moved to be closer to family. The house had been listed and relisted. No tenants had ever stayed. Nadia walked over on a Saturday afternoon, in full daylight, while a neighbor watched from her porch. She knocked. No answer. She looked through a narrow gap in the curtain beside the door. Empty. No furniture. No lamps. No sign of anyone. She went back home. That night at 9:45, she turned off every light in her house and sat in the dark. The house across the street lit up at 9:50. And then, slowly, one by one, the lights went out. Not all at once. Sequentially, moving through the house the way a person would, room by room, the way you move through a home when you're done for the night, the way a person would do it. Nadia moved out on the 1st of the following month. She broke her lease. She forfeited her deposit. She did not explain to her landlord what had happened. She is in a different city now. She told us she is doing fine. But she told us one more thing. The thing she almost didn't include. For the first 2 weeks in her new place, she kept all her lights off after 9 p.m. She sat in the dark on purpose. She didn't want anything learning her patterns again. She said she knows that's not rational. She said she started turning the lights back on. But some nights before she goes to bed, she looks out at the house across the street from her new place. Just for a second. Just to check. She hasn't seen anything. She says that's probably good. She doesn't say it like she believes it. 3 people. 3 things they cannot explain. A woman who watched herself leave warnings she can't remember writing, and every single one of them was right. A man who spent 4 months in meetings with someone his company had never heard of, wearing the face of a woman who vanished 7 years ago, a woman whose entire daily life was mirrored perfectly by a house that had been empty for 2 years. None of them have answers, not real ones, not the kind that settle in and let you stop thinking at 3 in the morning. If something has happened to you that you cannot account for, something that does not fit the story you have told yourself about how the world works, you know where to find us. We are always here, in the darkened corner, waiting.